Looking to build lower body strength, improve balance, and increase mobility? Mastering lunges is the key to unlocking lower body strength. In this video, I'm going to show you 4 simple ways to up your lunge game so you can get the most out of your workout. Hi, I'm Dr. Jess. I'm a physical therapist who's been obsessed with longevity ever since I was in undergrad. Back when I was working with individuals as a personal trainer, I was trying to get them to use their bodies to the best potential to get the most out of them. I then continued my studies as a physical therapist to gain more knowledge and have continued to get even more well-rounded with how we can teach people how to move well and live their best lives. By the end of this video, not only will you have perfect technique, but you'll also be able to capitalize on these 4 variations. So if we're going to master technique, what is a good lunge? So if I turn sideways, you're going to be able to see I've got my feet are shoulder width apart. I'm going to step forward with my left leg, a pretty long stride, and I'm going to step backward with my right leg. So this is going to be what's really important. My feet are not too narrow, so that way I'm still nice and stable. The whole point of a lunge is that if my center of mass is here at my belly button, I'm going to post up onto my toes a little bit on my back leg. I'm going to be dropping my back knee straight towards the floor, and I'm going to push back up again. What I don't want to do is get myself so off balance that I can't control that. So if you have to start by holding onto a surface nearby, that's totally fine. And just lower down a little bit and then push back up until you can get to the point where you can lower all the way. What I also don't want to do is I don't want my center of mass to translate forward when I'm in a lunge. It's about going straight towards the ground and back up. The last compensation that you want to fix is that when you're in that lunge, we don't want the back knee to drive towards the foot on the front side. That's going to really throw everything off, and I'm not using my legs to do the work in an even way, which is going to create some stress on the hips and on the back. So pull that belly button in, keep the core engaged, lower the knee straight down, back up. Those are going to be the quick ways to fix your lunge and make sure that it's safe. So the first change that we can make to our lunges is changing up the surface that we stand on. So if I'm on firm ground, the surface is going to be even on both feet. I can put my foot onto a surface that has some squish to it, like a BOSU. What that's going to do is it's going to increase the amount of work that my stabilizing muscles, or the small muscles that control the position of my joints in space, it's going to make those muscles work harder because now my ankle is going to feel wiggly on something that's squishy. So I'm going to fire all of my big muscles, my quads, my glutes. I've got core activated, and my ankle stabilizers are going, and my core activation is going to actually increase because I feel a little bit unstable. I'm going to have to tighten everything up. So I'm getting global plus stabilizing muscles the minute that I just put my foot on something that's a little bit squishy, like a BOSU. From here, the technique is absolutely the same. I like putting my hands here to make sure that I don't end up leaning forward. Belly button drops down towards the floor, push back up again. So if I want to load more onto one leg and get a little bit more power out of that leg, all I have to do is increase the amount of body weight that leg takes. So if I put my foot up onto a weight bench, a chair, something that's not going to move out from underneath you, from here I can do the same technique where I lower down, back up again. It just changes how I'm going to load, and I'm going to get a little bit more stress, which gives me a little bit more muscle that I'm going to activate, which gives me more power and strength. The next variation is weights. So the minute that I add weight to my lunge, if I change nothing else, it's increasing load. So it's going to be more work that my muscles have to move in space. So if I have 10s on each side, that's 20 extra pounds that my muscles are having to move. Now I could get a little bit more out of weights, and it depends on what my goal is. So if my goal is to get some upper body strengthening at the same time, because you're crunched for time, that's me all the time, then I'm going to do this in my lunge. I go into my bicep curl and then back down again. So I'm not going to just stand and do bicep curls. I'm going to do bicep curls while I lunge. I could combine a little bit more. I could press into my overhead press and then come back down. Or if I really want to focus on, let's say, increased core activation and shoulder stability, well, I could put one arm overhead. Now I'm really having to make sure that I'm using my core to not fall as I'm holding this overhead. My shoulders having to stabilize. From here, I do my lunge. So it's weighted and I'm getting increased activation out of all of these other muscles surrounding my thorax and my spine. So the third variable that we're going to talk about is the direction of the lunge. So typically we think of a lunge as I take a step forward, I drop the knee straight down towards the ground, and I come back up again, which is true. That's a very good lunge. I can also go in two other directions. A lateral lunge is when I'm going to take a big step sideways, so nice and wide. I'm going to kick my hips back towards the wall behind me, but I'm only going to bend one knee. One leg is going to stay straight, and I'm going to push back up to midline. This is going to increase the use of my adductor, which is the muscle on the inside of my thigh. It helps to stabilize the knee and is a great hip stabilizer. So it's a good thing to add. I'm going to get a little bit more activation of my lateral glutes as well, which is going to be important for stability in single leg standing. So I love lateral lunges. The last direction I'm going to talk about is a backwards lunge. So in standing, I'm going to take a step backwards and then lower back down. So I don't normally take big steps backwards when I'm walking in space. So the cool thing is that you're going to have to balance on one leg and have the control on that leg and increase the activation of my hip or my glutes to get that extension for that nice long step. So that's going to be some of the benefit of doing these lunges is the balance and coordination of the hip, which is very functional for how we move in space. And then from there, I do the same thing where I'm going to lower my center of mass and then bring it back up again. So direction is going to increase challenge in different ways and is going to just change up what you want out of the lunge. The fourth variable is going to be static versus dynamic. So a static lunge is where we're going to be, our feet are in one place, and then I'm going to be repeating the motion for the desired number of repetitions. Versus a dynamic lunge is going to be where I'm changing that lunge position. So if I think of a forward lunge, how I would change that from static to dynamic is I make it a walking lunge. So I take my step, I lower down, and then I take another step, I lower down. And I can do this walking across a sidewalk, a hallway in your house, or at the gym. For the lateral lunges, if I make it static, then I'm going to just repeat that lunge for, again, the desired number of repetitions. But if I want to make it dynamic, then I'm going to push off of that foot to come back to where I was, and then I'm going to absorb that landing. So when we're talking about working with people that really want that control for being able to do cuts and, think tennis players, soccer players, where they're really having to cut off of that foot, then doing dynamic lunges is going to be very good for preparing all of the joints to be able to absorb impact and then explosively push off of that. Versus if my goal is really, I want to be strong with transferring on and off of the floor, which in order to do that, I typically am in a lunge position, then I have to push my body weight back up and then come back into standing. Then static lunges would be better for that goal. You just have the type of lunge match what you want out of it. Now, if you're somebody that really has a lot of footwork related things, big explosive related things, think gymnastics, things like that, where it's a lot of quick, then doing a jumping lunge. So you're going to take that lunge position and then you just quickly go back and forth with it, then that again would match the function that you want to be able to do well. Now here's where the fun begins. Once you understand these variations, you can combine them to really make sure that you're maxing out what you're getting out of the lunge. So let's say I want to change my surface. So I'm going to use a BOSU. I'm going to change my direction. I'm going to go lateral, and I'm going to add weight because I want a little bit more output out of my muscles. Then I can do that. So I can do a weighted dynamic lateral lunge using a BOSU. I could stay static with my lunge, But let's say my goal is being able to rotate with control. I play golf, I'm a tennis player, and I'm in that static position as I'm doing the activity. Well, I could go into my lunge and I could add rotational resistance with that lunge. So it just depends on what you want to do and just have fun with it. Now that you know these 4 variations, you're going to be able to use lunges to get the most out of them. This is going to change your life. You're going to take exercise from something that you do because you have to or should do, and you're going to turn it into exercise that gets you doing what you want to be able to do well, and you'll have so much room for growth, which is awesome. Now, if you don't have access to weights or BOSUs or things like that, things that I've shown you how to use, that's totally fine. You don't have to start with that. You can take something as simple as a jug and fill it with water and use that for curls and to weight that lunge down. If you want to play with the surface that you're standing on and you don't have a special gym equipment, use a chair. Just a very simple thing is going to completely change the impact of that lunge in your workout. So this is the cool thing about what I'm trying to show you, is that make it yours and not somebody else's. So if you like this video, please leave a comment about your favorite lunge variation and make sure to like and subscribe. It just helps this channel grow, and we'll catch you in the next video.